You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where we bring on guests to ask them the hard questions that are in real estate by taking a deep dive into how they built their teams, their marketing strategies, their systems and processes on how they built a machine that spits out consistent deal flow month after month. Where the value given during the show will help you find and create consistent deal flow. Today, I have my buddy Eli The-House Guy. What's up, man?
What's up? How's everybody doing? Hope everyone's well. Looking forward to a good show.
Awesome, brother. So, hey, just kind of hop right into it. Tell us who you are, what you were doing before real estate, and why the heck did you get into real estate?
All right. So, long story short, it's a really long story, but we'll keep it short for the sake of this, the time block that we have. So I originated from Canada. I was born and raised in Canada. I grew up in a small town called Windsor, Ontario, which borders Detroit. 19 years old, I moved to Toronto. And when I was in Toronto, I was playing sports, playing basketball. From there, my basketball hoop dreams kind of started to die a little bit. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. And so from there, I had to kind of look for something else to do with my life because I dedicated my whole life to sports. And so for a while, I didn't know what to do. I fell into a little bit of depression, started smoking a lot of weed, things like that, girls, not really doing anything productive. And then I grabbed a sales job. I always had the gift of gab. And so I was a salesman for a while. I sold everything, you name it, from debit machines to makeup to furnaces to water filtration systems to cars to a whole bunch of stuff. And one day I was on the subway and I saw this, I saw an ad on the subway and it said the Real Estate Wealth Expo. And the face of that expo, or the speakers for that particular event, was Tony Robbins, Pitbull. And in Canada, they have something similar to Shark Tank over here, but over there it's called Dragon's Den. And so it was a bunch of dragons on the app. And I was like, all right, cool. That looked cool. And they were advertising a ticket for $67. And I'm like, oh, I got $60, whatever. So I sign up, I go, and I was overwhelmed. There was like 10,000 people in this arena, and they're all talking about real estate, from agents to brokers to insurance guys, solar guys, you name it. Everybody that was like in the professional world surrounding real estate was there. And then I was fortunate enough to go early enough that I got front row seating that I got to keep. So I paid the general admission price, but I got VIP seating, which was cool. So I'm talking to the guy that's in the first row. I'm sitting second row, and he and I were just talking real estate, and I'm telling him I want to get into the game, and he's like, "Why don't you just go get your license?" So at the time, I'm thinking, in order to get into real estate, you got to be licensed. And so I'll never forget, there was this one speaker. His name was Tim Payne. He gets on stage, and he's bragging about how much money he makes in real estate. He's an American guy. He talks about the fact that his kids wipe their butts with Benjamin Franklin's. And I'm like, dude, I want that. So he goes to the front of the stage and he's almost looking at me. And I was like, all right, whatever. So he asked the crowd, he's like, who's going to be the next guy to work with me? And at the time, I probably had $1,500 saved to my name. Right. And so I didn't know I was getting set up for a pitch. So I'm like, I will. So I stood up, crowd of 10,000 people behind me. And he's like, you young man, come to the stage. Wow. So I get up, crowd of 10,000 people looking at me. Nobody's cheering because they're like, this kid's about to get scammed. And then what happens is he's like, gives me a hug. I'm like, yeah, when do we start? He's like, look, go to the table over there, sign up for my 3-day course. Oh, so I go, 3-day course is $1,500.
Okay.
So I'm like, screw it. I just stood up in front of 10,000 people. I can't back out now. So I paid the $1,500 for the course. Life savings are gone. And from there, I learned a crap ton the following weekend about wholesaling, flipping, land development, note
Oh,
investing,
wow.
investing. It was too much, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is the only thing I can remember at the time was they said, take action, just go out and take action, take action. So I went out, Vistaprint, printed some cards, printed a shirt, printed a hat, printed a booklet, printed a card carrier, and started just calling myself an investor and started knocking on doors. None of that was successful. I ended up finding a real estate investment company that actually flipped houses. And I was so eager to get in the door, I literally did whatever they told me to do in order to get considered for a job. And then that's how I started. So I went to, we went to a mastermind in Florida from Toronto. And when I was there, I've met a bunch of Californians that were there. And they're like, dude, if you want to do this, just like leave your guy, go out and just do it. And so that's pretty much how it started. And then when I got to California, I hit the ground and I was just door knocking for deals until I got one.
Oh, wow. Incredible. I mean, there's so many talking points there. So you grew up in Canada. What made you met these guys from California. Why did you come to California?
So 2 reasons. Actually, I never been to California prior to that, to actually me coming here. And so when I was growing up on TV, watching, 90210 and all those Beverly Hills shows and all those stuff, I always wanted to know if California was really like that. I didn't really know. So I was always intrigued by going to California, but also I had a girlfriend that I met on Instagram. Now my fiance.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're having a relationship over Instagram, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to move to the States. I want to do this real estate thing. And she was like, yeah, you can do it. But I don't think she was fully like believing that I could actually pull it off.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was we had some fun times. She ended up getting pregnant, and then I had to just pack my things and come over here. So I was forced. And then when I was forced, I was like, you know what? I'm here now. Let's make it happen. And so every day for the first 6 months of me being here, I was just door knocking until I got my deal.
That's awesome, man. Well, I love how you put it in a way that you had some fun times and you came over here. Well, the thing is, for me personally, as a father, and having a child with somebody I wasn't married with either, you stepped up, you bet you were a man, and then you look back and you said, all right, let's get grinding, let's door knock, and I guess the rest is history, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a long 6 months, and I went to certain parts of the city that I didn't really understand how the city of Bakersfield was like laid out in terms of what section lives where. And I would go to sections where they're like, back in the day, this was like the white supremacist section, and if I go, it's like the Hispanic section, and nobody speaks English. And so what ended up,
where do I start?
Yeah, I just mapped out the city. I grabbed a map, I put it on my wall, I mapped out all the zip codes. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hit this street and go east because that's where all the chicken houses are. And then I ended up having to pitch in Spanish at the door.
Really? Do you speak Spanish?
Más o menos. Not great, but decent. And it was the fact that I pitched somebody at the door in Spanish. They kept the door open and started conversing with me. I found out foreclosure and a lot of things happening with the divorce, this, that, and the other. And then I kind of stepped in and I was like, you know what? I'm going to call my guy. So I called my guy on the phone and he came over to the house and we closed the deal together. And that was the first deal.
Okay. So there's the first deal. Now let's go back to the beginning of you taking the courses, joining his thing. And then you say you're going to do it on your own. Did you ever do a deal with any of those things anybody in Canada?
Yeah. So I did a couple of deals at that company. But they were looking for flips. So I was their acquisitions manager.
Okay.
And I was the guy negotiating with agents, making offers, things like that. And so we did get to knock out a couple of deals. And I got to see the transaction all the way through. And so obviously I made, a good amount of money from that. And that's kind of how I understood what to do. But then coming over to the American side, there's a bunch of nuances that are different. And so like
Such
in Canada, we don't have title companies. We don't have companies. Everything goes through an attorney. There is no escrow. Like that's not even a thing in Canada. There is no like you can't jump on like let's say PropStream and grab a bunch of lists full of data and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff to generate leads was like you had to put out direct mail. You had to put out ads. You had to drive for dollars. Those are things that we could do over there. but like the simplicity of just jumping on the internet and pulling a list and calling it doesn't exist in Canada at all.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, and I know a lot of people are crushing it in Canada too, but I mean, so you come out to California for good reasons. You decided to go door knocking, trying to figure out where you were going, and you decided to just take massive action and pitch in Spanish. Somehow you learned Spanish along the way, and you had this first deal. What was your first deal? Did you decide to take that deal down yourself? Did you list it? I mean, what happened?
So I wholesaled that one. It was actually a subject to deal.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So what's interesting is so right before I got into the real estate space, one of the things that I was selling was solar. And so in the solar game, they assign and assume loans all the time when, let's say, a house gets sold and then the solar is still there. The solar panel company is not going back to get the panels off the house. They're just going to transfer that, right?
Right.
So I saw that from the solar company, and I understood that, okay, well, if these guys can assign loans and other people can take over loans, I could probably do the same thing with houses. This is before I even knew subject to was like a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so the first deal, I'm looking at it, there's equity in it, but then the guy that ended up buying the deal for me, he ended up being my partner. What ended up happening was he kind of walked me through and said, hey, why don't we just take over this, and then I'll just pay you $5,000 as your assignment fee, and then we'll just keep the deal between us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right. I didn't really understand what was happening from his perspective, but I understood that there was enough equity in the deal that I was going to get paid regardless, and I was cool with it. So what ended up happening from there was he ended up taking over that loan. He paid me out my $5,000 assignment fee, and we went through the escrow process, and everybody got paid. And so I wholesaled the first one, and then the second deal ended up being like the worst deal of my life. So I bought a house. I bought a house for $2,000, thinking I had a home run deal. Right? House is worth
Sounds like it.
House is worth $150. Again, I don't know what a title company is. I don't know what an escrow company is. I don't know any of that stuff at this point.
Right.
I buy the deal. I get a quick claim from the guy. I give him $2,000. Yeah. I go out to go and find a loan to go fix the house. It was burned. It needed about 70, 80 grand worth of work, but it had a $50,000 lien on it.
Man.
So, and the lien was accruing interest, so it was growing. And so the longer and longer I sat on this property, the more it cost me. And what ended up happening was that property ended up going to tax sale and got resold. But that was
you lost your $2,000.
I lost $2,000. I lost a bunch of money on appraisals, hard money in the beginning. I lost a bunch of money on the insurance I put on the house. Then there was squatters in there, and then the city came to get over. It was like all bad. And so actually that house, I bought it the day before my daughter was born.
Really? Right when a big thing was coming. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was talking trash to my girl. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna show my daughter what daddy does. And
That's
right. So that was my first couple of deals. So the first one went well. The second one was all bad. And then from there I kind of learned, okay, what to do and what not to do with, behind the scenes of the contract. And then from there, it was just a slow grind and learning how to become consistent. I then switched over from door knocking to using a robo dialer to get leads. And then from there, I switched to texting and so on and so forth.
And that's going to be my next question. First off, I love that you're so proud to be a dad, and you're so proud of what you're doing, because that's what got you to where you're at. Even though, here's the thing, even though you had that bad deal, and man, you went really quick, but there was a lot of struggles in there, squatters, liens, all that, but you're here today doing consistent deal flow, building a team, having marketing strategy, and you're able to still, and all through that, you're still saying, to your daughter, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. And she's going to look up to you, and she's going to admire that. And she's going to say, my dad is doing great things. And anyways, like I said, I couldn't be more, proud of you just doing that. I'm a softie when it comes to being a dad and to seeing other dads, kick butt. So that being said, what got you from doing that struggle of a deal and maybe doing a deal here and there to doing consistent deals?
So there was a lot of mental barriers I had to overcome because the first deal was bad. The second deal was so bad. It was such a bad experience
Right.
that it scared the crap out of me. And I thought, like, I didn't know if I could pull this off. I didn't think I could ever get to $100,000 in a year. And I was like, man, like this is not possible. And I would do the whole wake up at 4:30 in the morning, drink a gallon of water, work
Take an
out,
ice bath.
you know, go to the park, run for an hour, shadow box, the whole nine, right?
Of course.
Journaling, like I did all that, and like burning the midnight oil. So I would get up at 4:30 and I would go to bed at like 12, and like trying to figure all this stuff out. The thing that was the biggest hurdle for me to overcome before I hit my first 100,000 was just the mindset of it's possible. That was it. Right. And so I was constantly battling with that and constantly being told no on the phone and not realizing like I just need more people to talk to. So I ended up joining a course or a small mentorship by a guy named Alex Youngblood, which was awesome. And he kind of just put it into perspective for me. He's like, look, bro, you got to get your numbers up in terms of how many offers you're making per day, how many people you're talking to, things like that. And I said, well, how? Because at this point, I'm still cold calling, you know, maybe 150, 200 people a day before I have to stop and I have to be with my family. Right. So I ended up going towards, I ended up using a texting software, Batch Leads. I got from, you know, talking to maybe 75 to 100 people out of the 200 dials I'm making per day. I went from that to sending a message out to 1,000 people per day. Well, at 1,000 people per day, now your numbers are way up. Now these people are calling you back, and now you're making offers. So when that happened, I had 3 back-to-back deals. It netted me about 50 grand. And then from there, I'm like, oh, this works. So then from there, I took the 50, I reinvested it back into getting some VAs to text for me, created a whole texting thing, and then we just blew up the amount of text messages that we send out per day. And then that's kind of how the snowball started to roll. And then it was like, okay, if I send out this many text messages, I'm going to get this many responses. From there, I'm going to get this many conversations, this many offers, this many deals. And then I started to look at, all right, well, if I'm texting this many people, I'm still not hitting the whole list because some people don't have cell phones. I got to call them. So then I brought up VAs to now call the people that we can't text. So then from there, it was like, now we're going deep into telemarketing. And that's what got me to my first 100K. That's what helped me get my first 250K.
There you go.
That's how it's been. Yeah.
Incredible, man. How was it hiring? You know, this is something that a lot of people kind of feel a little weird. How is it hiring a VA? So, I mean, you go in, you're doing your own thing, and then you're like, all right, I need to hire some VAs. Why the heck did you hire a VA? And then how did you hire a VA?
So I was actually against the idea of VAs for a long time. I wanted to hire Americans. And the reason why was because I wanted to build, like, I'm in my office now. We just got this office space a week ago. I wanted to build an office space full of, like, you know, young guys that are hungry, or maybe young girls that are hungry. We have that camaraderie. You know, I'm downtown Bakersfield. We got all these restaurants right over here and stuff. And so I wanted to have that environment, that vibe, that sales floor, that like, I can come in and I can dap you up and we're crushing it, right? So VAs was not something I wanted to do. It wasn't until I had so much trouble hiring an American that was willing to do the freaking work.
He
was like, just go and get a person from the Philippines. So
sounds about right.
I started with a $3 an hour VA, and I learned that in the VA game, you really get what you pay for. And so I went away from the Philippines. I realized that they're always working graveyard, and I wouldn't like to work graveyard. So I ended up going with Central American VAs.
Okay.
They speak Spanish. They service this market better, and they're on my time zone, and I can communicate with them during the day while we're all working together. So I ended up paying them a little bit more, and I ended up building a team out in Central America, full of guys that they help me generate deals and leads and all that good stuff.
Beautiful. Where did you hire those VAs? Like, where'd you find them?
I found them social media. Facebook was a big place. I never tried Upwork. I never tried Online Jobs PH. Fiverr I tried for a little while. Didn't really have any luck with that. Most of it, I'd say, has come from Facebook and
There you go.
referrals, and just cultivating relationships with people on social media and being active in that space is kind of what helped me find quality people. And then through the years, I've developed a good enough process, I think, in order to find out, like, is this person the right fit for the team, and then go from there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I want to go into that. I'm going to give you 2 questions here. What makes you a good person for Eli's team? And then also, what does your team look like now?
So our team is changing. Earlier in the year, we had a total of 10 people. Halfway through the year, I let them go. The reason
And
why?
who were they? Were they all VAs in-house?
No, there was 2 people in-house, 1 dispo guy, 1 lead manager, and myself, and then the rest were all VAs. I let 6 out of the 7 VAs go, and 1 in-house guy go. The reason why is because as I started to grow, I started to realize, like, it's important for me to pour into these people, because if they don't grow, they're just going to easily be bought out by somebody else who might pay them maybe $1 more, or
Mhm.
might pour into them a little bit more than I am. And so I had to do a lot of restructuring, and then I had to do a lot of interpersonal work with how I'm going to be as a leader, right? And so now my dispo guy that was here last week, he decided he wanted to go to the military. So I have another girl that
Was that the guy who was on the phone? He's like, dude, we've
Yeah.
been hitting up Alex.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's yours. Yeah. So yeah, he just went to the military. So that's something that he said he wanted to always do. And I said, hey, you know what? I'll even, I'll give you a blessing on your way out. Good luck. If you want a job back here, you're more than welcome. Here I am. So our team is changing up a little bit. We have a total of 8 VAs now that generate a lot of business. And I have 1 like assistant, admin assistant or executive assistant down there that kind of manages that team. And I do we do morning huddles, and I pour into them in terms of personal development, and we all read. Right now we're reading, where's the book at? Spin Selling. So a little bit of sales training. We read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We read Atomic Habits, read a couple books like that, and I'm pouring into them that way. But as far as the in-house team goes, I've got 1 guy that's lead manager that's going to be my acquisition soon, and I've got a dispo girl coming in within the next couple of weeks.
Gotcha. And what are your VAs doing right now? Are they like all cold callers? What else? Are they doing anything else?
Half and half, cold call and text.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and I like that. I love this topic because it's something because I got a question for you here coming up about struggles, but one of our struggles has always been building that team, keeping the team motivated, right? And so one thing that we're going to be going on next year is team culture. I'm going to put culture first next year, and I'm already starting the process with team culture. And I love that you're already thinking about that, doing that stuff. One thing we do too is books. All right, like books is a huge thing. I'm always giving out books. One thing, and I said this in a previous show too. So I have like all these trainings and stuff that I've bought through, whatever, right? A lot of money spent in trainings, and I'll get my acquisition guys in here and I'll be like, all right, let's go home, watch these trainings, and come back to me with notes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You think they went home and watched these trainings? No. I just sit their butts down and say, all right, you got to come in early and watch these videos, right?
Yeah.
Now, so it's but the thing is, and also we hired an individual. He's on a real estate agent team, and it's funny. I see you probably know a lot of real estate agents as well. You see these real estate agent teams, and there's like buyer's agents and stuff like that, and you see how like committed they are if the culture is good. And to be honest, and I'm just gonna between you and I and everybody on this podcast, they're not really making money, right? But they're willing to do things for the team, do trainings and all this other stuff. But it's like, dude, and it's like, how can I get people on my team, but also show you that you're going to make a crap ton of money, right?
Right.
And so anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing. And so one thing that we initiated was obviously the normal vision board, right? That's just stage 1. And so what we're going to do is actually tomorrow, without coming in and cutting up a bunch of magazines and put them on the vision board, we're actually going to use Canva. So everybody on my team, including our VAs, we're going to do Canva, and you got to download this stuff from Google, get a picture or whatever, truck, house, whatever it might be, put it on your vision board, download it, and then we're all going to talk about it. Another thing too, and that I realized if I want to put culture first, I went down like a YouTube rabbit hole the other day. I'm like, okay, what's culture? What's culture? Because I had a military background. I thought I was a good leader, and we're always growing, right?
Mhm.
And realizing what is culture, right? And I want people to feel like, because everybody's going to want different things in your company. And one thing I've noticed is, one-on-ones are going to be big, right?
Yeah.
And then by doing those vision boards, I'm able to see what they want and how can I help them accomplish their goals, right?
Yeah.
And you already know with all the books that you read, you know what books to give out to people, but for me, it's those one-on-ones. And I've always struggled at times to have those one-on-ones, but I've been super disciplined to make sure to have one-on-ones with every single individual in the company.
Yeah. That's there's a guy that I know that runs a life insurance agency not that far from here, and he's got a pretty sizable team, and it's the same thing, right? And I know a bunch of agents, like you said, the same thing. They're all committed. They're pumped up. They're doing all this stuff. But why are they so committed to something that's not paying them? I don't get it, right? I'm like,
right.
You can come in and make 10, 15 grand a month easy with me,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like, why are you so stuck there? So that's something that I'm actually really actively looking at and trying to understand. Well, why don't people stick? Like, what is it? What is the missing link? There's got to be something. So I haven't quite hit the nail on the head quite yet, but it is something that I am very consciously aware of, because we got some pretty big goals for next year, and we want to make sure that we want to grow this company as big as possible.
Well, you're also building a brand, and what I love about that, Eli the House Guy, right? So you're building a brand, and what they want to do too is people want to be a part of something, right?
Yeah.
And so you're already going down the right path, and I love seeing that. So
yeah, so work in progress, but one step at a time. That's it. That's all we can do.
Eli, what are you doing right now for marketing for your team, for your company?
So we do a lot of obviously we do the telemarketing. That's our bread and butter, but we do a lot of social media outreach, like a lot of social media outreach. People reach out to us and sell us their deals all the time. And that's been when telemarketing gets slow, that's kind of where the rest of our deals come from. Now, in terms of like city outreach, or like community outreach, I should say, I try to get involved in different things that are happening in the community, and I'll put like my name on it, and I'll put my company's name on it. So that way people, when they see the company or they hear about the company, it becomes a household name. And it's slowly starting to become that. People recognize Best Home Solutions, Eli The-House Guy. At one point I had a car that was wrapped until that car got totaled, but it was wrapped around. And people would say, oh, that's Eli The-House Guy's car. And that guy's looking for a house to buy. And so I did a lot of that, like guerrilla marketing style kind of things out in the community. But those I'd say are the three biggest things. I do a little bit of PPC, not that much. And the reason why is because we don't have the in-house personnel to handle the amount of leads that will come in from that. Right. And so that's the reason why I've kind of kept my foot off the throttle with that. But when we start to grow and have a couple more guys here in house, then that's something I'll definitely ramp up, because I do know the value of those leads coming to you. And so right now, that's kind of that's what we're doing in terms of marketing. And it's working.
You go, man. Yeah. So you have cold call and referrals. How are you guys handling the leads when they come in?
So they just go into our CRM and then they just get passed around depending on what they are. So most of the stuff, since I'm still doing my own acquisitions for right now, the stuff that's hot, let's say if it comes off of a cold call lead, that comes straight to me. If it's a texting lead, it goes to my guy Kevin, and Kevin's job is to warm them up and kind of tell them what we're all about, give them their options, let them know what we're all about, what we're here to do, and then see if it's the right fit. Now, if it's not the right fit, we have agents that we work with, so we'll pass on that lead to the agent, and the agent will give us a referral. If we can novate the deal, we'll novate it. If it's a deal we can take down, we'll take it down. If it's a deal that's a wholesalable deal, we'll wholesale it. If it's a flip deal, we'll do that as well. So it really just depends on the lead. I'm more so looking for people who want to transact versus a wholesale deal, because there's so many different things that we can do, right? So that's why when a lead comes in from a text, it's like we got to educate them first on what to expect. And then from there, it's kind of like, all right, what bucket do you go in? And from there, it's once I give the seller their options, they're not really looking for any other solution because they just went all the way down this rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
What CRM are you guys using?
We use RE Simply.
Okay. How is that?
It's good. Every CRM has its pros and cons, I'd say. It's not the perfect one in the world, but it's not the worst either. I mean, I didn't like Podio when I used Podio. It was too big for me and too clunky. I didn't really like it. But RE Simply, I mean, it does all the stuff you need it to do. You know, it has its own automations. It has its marketing stuff. It has its direct mail stuff all in house. You can e-sign from it. You can
Oh, there you go.
call from it. You can do a bunch of stuff with it. You have lead intake forms you can export and send out to different people if they want to send you a JV deal, things like that. So it has everything that you need. Has a communicative tool. Dashboard is pretty cool. You can link up your, accounts and stuff like that, that runs on your business. All that stuff is all in there. So it's a good CRM. I would say I would recommend it. But again, you just got to find what works for you in terms of a CRM.
There you go. So you're the only. So you said, is it Kevin? So is he the lead manager? Are you the only acquisition guy right now?
Right now, I'm the only acquisition guy. We just lost the
Okay.
guy and we're bringing someone else back, bringing someone else on. So that's
When will you step out of that position?
The moment Kevin is ramped up and ready to go in acquisitions, I'm out.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he started with me 3 weeks ago, but he's making pretty good headway so far. So I expect good things out of him.
Do you have him on commission or base?
It's a blend. So he's got a $2,000 a month salary.
Okay.
And then his commission is 5% for anything that we get closed right now.
There we go. And what are you guys what are your guys' leads to contracts right now?
I have to dig into that, but
it's okay. Well, I mean, like, if from top of your head, what would you?
Off the top of my head, I'd say it's about 25 to 30 leads per contract.
Nice. And where those leads come from? I know you said cold calling, but like, what kind of list are they coming off of?
We call everybody. Honestly, we don't just. So I'll do like. Yeah, I don't discriminate. Like I'm looking.
You have a house. We're going from you.
Yeah, that's it. So let me break it down like this. So we look at our biggest lists are the following. We want everybody that has owned a house for at least 3 years.
Okay.
We want that house to be at least built in the 1920s to the 1980s. Automatically, that's going to tell me that house needs work. Okay. So, and the reason why at this point, we're talking about 40-year-old houses and older. 40-year-old houses and older probably have had 1 to 3 families that are in there. And from family to family, they're not getting a full rehab. They might just get lipstick on a pig so the agent can sell it. So with those 3 cycles, I know there's going to be some stuff that's dated. And we know what FHA financing looks like. FHA will pass anything that, if everything works and it looks good, it's good. Right? So, but FHA isn't going behind the walls and checking everything and making sure it's all updated to the nines for today's standard. So what we do is we go after somebody that owned their house for at least 3 years, built in the 20s to the 80s, and we grab everybody. Okay. Now, will we pull a specific pre-foreclosure list? Yes. Will we pull a probate list? Yes. Code violations? Yes. Tax distress? Yes. All that stuff, we'll still pull it. Right. But we'll mix it in and we'll do like a 3-week campaign of all the bulk stuff. And then we'll do like a 1-week campaign of the niche stuff because you're still going to get stuff out of that. Now, when we get all that stuff in, now it's a matter of who wants to transact versus who needs to sell at a super low price. When we talk to our leads, obviously we're going for equity first. So everyone's getting the cash offer first. If that doesn't work out, right, we've built such a relationship with these people so far that it's a no-brainer to take a look at the other stuff that we can do, right? And we tell them up front, like, we might not be the buyer for you. And if we're not the buyer, we have other options that we'll go ahead and give you. So at least out of this call, you're going to get some value. And everybody's cool with that. And so that opens the door for me to go ahead and give my list of services, and then they just tell me what they want to do.
Awesome. Are you just focused on Bakersfield, or how broad are you guys going?
So we do everything in the Central Valley. So from Bakersfield to Fresno, actually higher than Fresno, we'll go up to just south of Sacramento, Modesto, Stockton area. So everything in that valley, and then Antelope Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster. We'll do Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino, and any of the high desert areas from Ridgecrest down to Victorville, Hesperia, all the way Adelanto, all those places over there.
There you go. And you say high desert area. So I know that some of those areas are going to have, you're going to be hard to find buyers. Where are you guys getting your buyers?
So, I mean, there's a couple of different ways that we do it, depending on the type of the deal. Most of our deals sell themselves, however, because we're getting them so low. We're getting them at like 50 cents on the dollar. Yep. And so when we go to sell a deal, depending on the deal, we'll either just hire an agent and say, hey, bring me a buyer and I'll give you a commission. Or we'll just list it ourselves because we can take advantage of the flat fee listing service. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll do the old prop stream, jump in, who's buying in this area, call them up, put them on a list and say, okay, well, this is what we got, set them up for a showing, have them all go over there, check the property, submit their offers, the whole shebang. So those are the three main ways that we find buyers. But like if the deal is in a very low demand area to begin with, I'm not going to contract that deal. I'm not going to try and contract something for the sake of getting a contract, because I don't want, like when George was here, I didn't want him to sit on deals that we can't move. And so
100%.
Yeah. So if it's in a very low demand area or a very, very small city, let's say, 10,000 people or less, and there's not a lot of investor activity, we're not buying it. I don't care if you call me and you almost give me your house for free. I'll give you a quick story. There was a lady in Missouri that when I was doing PPC earlier in the year, she clicked on my ad and she said, hey, I have a house. I wanted to sell it. I said, okay, great. We're buying. And so she gives me the rundown of her house. It's worth about maybe 130,000. She owes like 80. I'm like, all right, cool. There's not a lot of equity in here, but I can take over your payments and then pay this off when I resell the house. She says, okay, cool. What ends up happening is that property's damage was so bad and the weeds were so overgrown and all the foliage around the house was so overgrown that the house, it was like underwater based on the rehab. When she sent me pictures of the house, nobody in that area wanted to touch that deal. And the reason why is she had like 26 dogs in the house. They had feces, they had cats. Like it was just a complete train wreck. And so what ended up happening with that house is after we contracted it, we actually called her back and said, hey, I did you a favor. I paid off 1 month of your mortgage, but here's your contract back. Here's your house back. I don't want it. It doesn't fit. And so she wasn't too happy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I still did right by her because she wasn't making her mortgage payment. And I saved her out of foreclosure for, an extra month and helped her with, finding another agent to help her, find a good buyer for her.
That's incredible. And you totally led with value. And that's the kind of person you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always tell people up front, like, if I'm not going to be your guy, I'm not going to sit here and try to push the envelope. Like if it's for me, it's for me. If it's not, I'll help you find somebody who can help you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Eli. What is your number one struggle in business right now?
Hiring.
Yeah.
Hands down. Hiring.
What are you doing right now to find hire? Because I'm gonna give you a little plug if after this. What's your I'm gonna do it on the show, but what are you using to hire right now?
I did a lot of a lot. So what I mean by that is the following. So I got Cal State Bakersfield on the other side of town. I used to live by the school there. But what I used to do is I used to take I don't know if I have these sheets in here. I don't think so. But I printed out on like a 8.5 by 11 sheet. I put an ad on there and I was like, here's a number, take a number and cut it up at the bottom.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So I'd go to the school and I'd post all of those on like all the way around the school, from the outside to the inside. I'd go to Bakersfield College. I'd do the same thing. So I'd go to like a sporting event, or I'd go to like a theatrical event or something. And I'll just post everywhere. Right.
Okay.
And I'd post them downtown on like the poles downtown, the light posts downtown, just trying to get people to come in. That didn't work.
No, I was actually kind of looking forward to what would happen.
No, complete fail. Every time I would post those things up at the school, what would happen is the school security would come and rip them down. And I didn't know that.
No.
So I was like, dude, like I'm trying to hire these students. Why are you ripping this down? They're like, no, if you want to do this, you got to go through our, this facility or this faculty or
Right.
whatever. So I did that. Still no dice, didn't work. So then I called a staffing agency and I'm like, hey, do you guys have any guys that will work on commission only? They're like, no, you got to pay them a salary because we got to get paid. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's try that. So I tried that for a little while. Didn't work. I brought in a few guys from that. Those guys, they came in expecting something a little bit different. I think they were expecting more of like maybe a Best Buy kind of thing where they get like majority of their income is a salary and then they get like a tiny commission. And I was like, no, it's the opposite. Like you get
you don't want those kind of guys anyways.
Right, because they're going to come in, they're going to do the bare minimum, and they're going to be good with, let's say, 30 calls in a day. That's just not going to cut it, right? Another thing that I've tried to do is I did the Indeed ZipRecruiter thing. I ended up spending like $3,000 on Indeed and ZipRecruiter combined. I had a bunch of applicants, but then I was like, well, I don't want just a bunch of applicants to come in and think this is just going to be a walk in the park kind of a job because it's not that. Right. So here's my list of criteria. If you guys follow this criteria, then and only then will I consider you for an interview. Well, I had probably 150 people go through it. I had 4 people that completed everything, and 2 people came in and they were both trash.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, I got to try a different approach. So I started attending meetups. Okay. Was at a meetup. Actually, the meetup that you and I met at last year in Orange County was where I found George. And he came for a year. So I was like, well, that worked. I need to double down on the amount of meetups I go to and start getting guys from there because they kind of know the game already. They might have not have done their first deal, but some people I know that exist, they're out there and they might have done a deal, maybe 2 deals or 3 deals. And they're like, dude, it's too much work. I'd rather be fed and handle, right? And so I think what I'm going to be doing going into 2023 is going to more meetups and doing more community outreach that way and trying to find guys that are newer that kind of want to get their feet wet. Also, I looked at a couple of agents. I've walked into some life insurance companies and, pitched my deal. If is life insurance not working out for you? Are you not making the $1 million bucks? That's where I got the girl that's going to come in and be my dispo. She was working with my girl. My girl got licensed with life insurance, but it didn't work out for the both of them. And so they're like, we need something else. And so I brought this girl on last weekend and I'm like, let's go to the field. Let me show you what it is. And that day I ended up buying 2 houses sub 2 with none of my own money, which was cool. And then, so we walked them through the house and I said, this is what it's all about. And we drove them back and they were like, man, we want to start tomorrow. And so this was last weekend. And so they're moving here from Woodland Hills, her and her husband, to come and work with me, which is awesome. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I find that going to places where people are getting their expectations not met in like maybe another industry that has to do with sales or going to meetup is going to be really where I'm going to find the best candidates, at least in my experience, because I would love to have a bunch of college kids come in and, crush it. Right. But I don't know.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. Some of our best guys have been from meetups, 110%. My issue has been like, obviously I want it to be like a consistent thing, right? So like if, for example, if like my seat's not filled, I need to make sure I have like some type of machine in the back ready to keep going, right? You always got to have this like hiring thing. So I have this one guy, and I'll give you the number after it, but he's my job recruiter. And what he does is I pay him $1,500. And again, still my best probably people are from like meetups. So I love that. Yeah. Keep going to meetups. But I have had some pretty good people come through and I've had tons of interviews through this guy. So I pay him $1,500. He has like ads across the board. Like he does the whole business and he does this professionally. And then basically he fills up my calendar to get people in the office and I do all these interviews. Right. So out of, 15 interviews in 1 week, I'm able to pick 1 guy or 2 guys, whatever it might be, and then test them out. So I can't give you that number if it's something you want to check out to get a bunch of interviews. I know you just got a new office, and that goes into my next question. Eli, especially with you just opening up a new office, which is a huge move. What are your strategies to get through this recession and coming out the other side even stronger?
My number one strategy and this is a quote from Grant Cardone, and I have to paraphrase it because I don't remember it exactly. But in a recession, people are contracting. I'm pouring fuel on the fire. So I want as many good problems as possible.
Exactly.
I want as much work as possible that I can literally just say, hey, come in, do this, and I'll pay you, right? And then I can get these people in and hooked and then keep going from there, right? I kind of see it like I'm almost administering drugs. You come in and take my crack, you take my real estate crack, you make a quick $5,000 check. Trust me, you'll be back, right? And I'm just, pouring more fuel on the fire, doing more stuff. I'm not slowing down in terms of marketing. I'm not slowing down in terms of community outreach. I'm not slowing down in anything that we're doing. I'm telling my guys, like all the way through Christmas, my VAs are going to be working through New Year's. The only days they're getting off is Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's. We're just going to be blowing it up, right? So I want as many leads. I want as many appointments. I want as many opportunities as possible because right now, people that are scared to transact for whatever their reasons, they're leaving the market. Those fly-by-night, midnight equity thief companies, they're out of the game. And like the people that are set up and poised to continue and keep going and still bring themselves opportunities, those are going to be the people that are going to come out at the end. And so while everybody is contracting, in the words of Grant Cardone, I want to expand. I'm letting everybody know I'm hiring. And I'll let everybody know. I'll have at least 20 conversations just even today, just wherever I go. Hey, I'm hiring. Do you want a job? I'm hiring people over at the church I go to. I'm telling people like, hey, if you want to, switch careers, things ain't looking so hot, come and check me out down in my office. I'm downtown. Now, part of the thing, like I had a quote unquote office last year, or I guess earlier this year. It was in the back of a property that I bought and sold to a developer. And he built me out this office space, and it was in a really dingy neighborhood. So in the alley, you would see, transients, using the bathroom, defecating themselves, having sex, leaving condoms, the whole shebang, right? And that kind of environment was really hard to attract people because I mean, it looks very ghetto. It looks very like run down. If I'm making all this money, why am I in this crappy location? So the strategy was I needed to kind of upgrade the image. I need to upgrade the space. I need to upgrade what I've got around me. So now I can attract quality people that actually want to come down here and be here. Right. And so that was the plan behind the office space. And I forced myself to get a bigger space and pay a little bit more. And the reason why is because now it's going to force me to go out and constantly be recruiting and finding people to come in here. And like, I'm not regressing in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going backwards. We're going forward. And so my plan in this recession to just keep going forward. We're not going backwards at all.
Right. No, I love it. It's kind of like that shell analogy, right? Like if you have a bigger shell, that's how you're going to definitely grow. Keep posting about that. Dude. Keep posting about your office. Keep posting about what you're doing, especially because you got a sweet spot downtown.
Yeah.
So who wouldn't want to go work at that office and go get some coffee, chill downtown, go have a celebration of a deal closing at a local bar, right?
There's a sushi bar literally right here.
I think I'm going to come work for you, dude.
This is like one of the most famous spots of sushi in the city. They got the best stuff over there. Right across the street, we got more restaurants. On the ground floor is a lounge. So Thursday, Friday nights, you want to hit a happy hour. You want to go clubbing, work late and go to the club right here. We're on the top floor, one of the taller buildings in the city. And so we got windows and great views and all that good stuff. So this is a spot you want to be if you want to come in and you want to get an opportunity to grow. And
absolutely.
For sure.
Keep crushing it, man. And that goes into my next question. Dude, Eli, what have you recently, and I know you're a guy who reads and listens a lot. What have you read or listened to that just really inspired you that you would like to share?
Well, the book I'm reading right now is Spin Selling, but I'll say the most impactful book I read this year outside of the Bible. I'm a Bible guy. But outside of that, the most impactful book I read this year has to be Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I'll give you a takeaway. At the end of the book, I love how he put this. The problem with life is that it's so daily. So people set these big esoteric goals about what they want to accomplish and what they see themselves doing in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the deal. Well, it's very easy to go ahead and set those goals and then start, with all this momentum and all this motivation, all this fire, all this stuff behind you to think that you're going to go get that. But the problem with life is that it's so daily. And so the difference between world-class people and amateurs is the world-class people don't let their life get in the way of their day-to-day. Day-to-day people, they show up. It doesn't matter what happens. They're here, they're showing up, they're making it happen, right? Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And so the people that fall in love with that mundane, day-to-day, every day I'm going to show up and do what it takes in order to move forward and push the needle forward, I guess, mentality, the people that have that are the people that succeed. Whereas the people that don't have that, those are the amateurs, and you're going to have a roller coaster effect. And so that was the most, I'd say, impactful book that I've read this year. And that was the biggest takeaway at the end of that book, was that the problem with life is that it's so daily, but that's also the blessing.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great book.
Yeah.
Hey, Eli, gosh, I thank you so much for all the stuff that you've shared with us today. Again, it's just a glimpse into your company and what you're doing and the big things that are to come. Eli, where can we find you and bug you and ask for advice on social media?
Yeah. So my tagline or my handle on all my social media platforms is Eli The-House Guy. It's easy to say, difficult to forget, baby.
I know. That's why I like repeating it. It's definitely catchy.
There you go. So the way you see it on the screen right now, Eli_The-House Guy is the same way on Instagram. On Twitter, same thing. On Facebook, it's Eli The-House Guy. I don't use LinkedIn anymore. I probably should, but I don't. I don't have TikTok or Snapchat. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, those are my big 3 social medias. If you guys want to find me on there to hit me up, you can just look for Eli The-House Guy and you will find me there.
There we go. Straight go giver. Thanks again, Eli. And hey, thanks for joining us here at the Real Estate Block Podcast. See you next time.
Thanks for having me, man. Later.